Welcome back to the Lion's Den. Today we speak with Colin Hirdman, who is the co-founder of a company called Rainmaker, among many other companies for which he is also the co-founder. Colin is one of the true serial entrepreneurs that I've ever met. He actually teamed up with a few of his best friends from childhood, and they created something called Monkey Island Ventures. And through that entity, they've basically created several different businesses. And Rainmaker is the one that he's currently really, really focused on, which is one that I found to be particularly interesting because it was applicable to my business. And so Rainmaker is really all about how to best leverage LinkedIn to grow your business. So give this a listen for some great tips and tricks on LinkedIn. Colin, welcome to the Lion's Den.
Thanks, Nico. I'm super excited to be here.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, hey, I was, before we started recording, I was on your LinkedIn page
Yeah.
and there's like dozens of companies on there. So clearly you are a serial entrepreneur, I would say. How have you been able to start so many businesses?
Well, I think part of it is because you need to fail fast, right? So some of the businesses didn't make it. So that's a quick answer. But I've been an entrepreneur my whole life. Started my first company a week after I graduated from college with a criminal justice degree. I never took a business accounting or marketing class in college, so it was all trial by fire. I started that first company again, a week after graduating, and had it for a little over a decade. I ended up selling that company in 2006. So then in 2007, I started Monkey Island Ventures with two buddies of mine, Josh and Zach. We've all known each other since we were about 5 years old. And Monkey Island is named after a park that we played at when we were kids. And really, it's through the Monkey Island Ventures is kind of, I would say, the umbrella company. All the other kind of different brands are underneath that. And we can certainly get into specifics however you want to do that. But that's kind of the basic layout. Is Monkey Island Ventures sits atop everything. And then all of various businesses that we've built kind of sit underneath that.
Okay, I see. Okay, so Monkey Island Ventures was in 2006. Yeah, because that was one thing I noticed on the LinkedIn page. You had that first business you mentioned where you were the founder, and then everything after that, you are a co-founder. And that's
Right.
because you did it through this Monkey Island thing. Okay, very cool.
Yeah.
Um, well, first of all, you're kind of like living the dream in a way where you're working with your friends and you've been working with your friends for so long.
Yeah.
I wish I was doing that. I wish when I had approached my friends from time to time, they had said yes to certain things. How did you
Yeah.
all get to agree on that? And how did you all stay in agreement on that for so long?
Yeah. So the way that we came together was really pretty, serendipity. I was just finished selling my company. Zach was transitioning a company that he was in through a sale. And Josh was moving up to Minnesota from Uruguay. So his father's side of the family is Uruguayan, and they wanted to raise their family up here in the Twin Cities. So timing just really worked out well. We're on the phone quite a bit, chatting about ideas, talking about opportunities, and we're just kind of a point in all of our lives that we could take a risk. And so we ventured into starting to do some software as a service company, some tech, and most of those failed. But we learned some really valuable lessons. One of the products, Local Tweets, was built on top of Twitter. We signed up like 30,000 users in 2 days. We were a trending topic on Twitter, and unfortunately, we didn't really have a good monetization model. I had to shut that down. And then SMB Tweet was a different product built on top of Twitter, and it would grow followers for like local retail, like coffee shops and things like that want Twitter followers that could actually come in and buy a coffee. And that started to do really well. But because we had to use a Twitter token and access to their API, as Twitter was changing their terms of use and everything, it made our product pretty much really not able to go forward with it. So it was really a frustrating time for us around that. But that's also when, toward the tail end of that, I started to do digital marketing. And that's what ended up becoming Agurian, our digital marketing company, a services company that has around 30 people in it. And then from there we started Cloudburst, and that's a software development company. and that has about 10 people in that. And so those two service businesses are really kind of what keep the lights on. And then through a lot of kind of the growth hacking for our own products over the last, 6, 7 years, I got really good at cold email and LinkedIn. And in January of this year, I went to my business partners and said, I think I could build a real business also out of my LinkedIn process and software. And so that's what I'm completely dedicated to now is that. But I think, for the three of us being able to stay in business for so long, it's really putting friendship and our relationships ahead of our businesses, and knowing that, not, I mean, most business decisions are not catastrophic. And so
Mhm.
we're really kind of just, relying on each other and supportive. And we even came up with what are called the 5 F's, which are freedom, finances, family, friendship, and fun. And those 5 F's are really the core values that we've had for many years now, and we really live by those. And having had a business where I was kind of, alone at the top versus having business partners that can be with you, that you can trust implicitly through the highs and the lows of being an entrepreneur, I would take that path any day over being a solopreneur. I think that's really hard, and some people are cut out for it, but I much prefer having people that I can, just experience the ups and downs of being an entrepreneur.
Yeah. Well, I want to dig into each of those different companies, that you mentioned under Monkey Island Ventures, and then really focus on Rainmaker, which is the LinkedIn one, because I selfishly want to steal some knowledge on you from that.
Oh yeah.
Um, but before we dig into those, I'm still so curious about the three best friends from like childhood thing.
Yeah.
What are some of the? I mean, did you guys have any like? What are the downsides of doing that? I guess would be my question. Is there anything that if they weren't your best friends, certain things would have been easier, or no? You think the pros vastly outweigh the cons?
I think the pros vastly outweigh the cons. Our families, will rent an Airbnb one time in the summer, one time in the winter. We all get together.
Hmm.
The three of us have a scrum every single morning where we're, talking about like what the previous day and talking about, what we're going to be doing in the upcoming day.
Hmm.
We get together for coffee every Tuesday morning. So, we really share stuff that's going on personally between us. We share the stuff that's happening in the business. But you got to remember, like, we've known each other since we were 5 years old. And it's a unique thing to be able to have people that you've just known your whole life. You know who they are, to their core. And again, just sharing those experiences. Um, but it is something that I think others can do as well. And you don't need that long of a friendship. I think you just need to find people that you can trust, people that can kind of balance out the personalities and what's needed to run a business.
Hmm.
There can certainly still be a lot of overlap in that. That's fine. But when the rubber hits the road, it's about who's going to be doing what, and that needs to be really understood.
Yeah. So do you three have like complementary skill sets, or do you all sort of take on the like founder role whenever you launch a new enterprise?
Yeah. I mean, I think our skill sets are fairly similar. And right now Josh is, president of Agurian. Zach is, CEO of Cloudburst, and I
Okay.
don't have a title yet for Rainmaker. So but that works well. But we've all have been, together in the businesses in different capacities over the years. So I think it's just one of those things that you just have to balance out. I would say one of the things that none of us have real big egos. I think we're always trying to put other people first, and that really, I think, tends to go really well, especially when you're hiring employees and you're trying to create a culture where everyone feels like empowered to really assist in the business. Those are really great attributes to have. But yeah, I just there's just really not a lot of negatives, in kind of the relationship that we have and how we're building our businesses.
Okay. Gotcha. So if we look at the companies under the Monkey Island Ventures umbrella right now, and I'm looking
Mhm,
on your website, one, two, three, four, five. Um, they kind of when I read through them, they sort of create like an ecosystem in a way. Like,
mm,
and maybe I'm
mhm.
wrong about that, but I
Yeah.
mean, so win win go, for example,
Mhm.
is that is a platform basically where you're connecting founders with talent and with investors. Is that right?
Yes, and that's through what's the other site there, a shared success agreement. And so that's
Yep.
something that Zach had invented at Cloudburst, a shared success agreement, which was really is just a discount on your services for a share of future revenue. It's
Hmm.
a simple alternative to like debt or equity crowdfunding. It's something that we've used quite a bit at Cloudburst with our clients. And so Win Win Go is fairly dormant right now. What eventually what we want to do with that is be able to stand up shared success agreements as a viable alternative to what I said, like debt and equity and whatnot,
Yeah.
and allow there to be a marketplace of founders, but then also service providers and investors that are willing to enter into those types of kind of simple agreements.
Yeah. No, I think that's awesome. I know that there are a lot of consultants and service providers out there who would love to get involved with something early stage, you know, cut their
Yeah,
fees in half or whatever, and the other half is success based.
yeah. No,
I think
that
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 makes
that
total sense.
Yeah, and that part of the beauty, I think, of the shared success agreement is that it's incredibly simple. If you go to sharedsuccessagreement.org, we don't make any money on it. Like we're just freely giving that out to the public. And there's even a calculator there where you can mess around, and then actually, when you're done, there's only I think 5 or 6 fields, and when you're done, you hit submit, and an email will get sent to you with a attachment to a Google Doc with all of the legalese and all the attributes you put in there, and then you can certainly fine tune it however you want. But you're really getting the form and the structure of the shared success agreement through the site. And yeah, it's just a wonderful way where if you're a consultant, you want to work with a client, and maybe they can't quite afford you, and so you're going to do 75% cash, and the other 25% is shared success, and you're going to make a 3x multiple on the amount that you're deferring, right? Very simple,
Yeah.
very easy to do. And it's not debt. So if the founder goes out of business, then the consultant doesn't get paid. And if the consultant doesn't do good work, then they're probably not going to end up seeing the other side of what they agreed to, right? So it has to be. That's why we came up with the name Win Win Go. Is really shared success agreements at their best is a win-win for both parties.
Yeah. Okay. So you have this piece under Monkey Island Ventures where it's this like connecting founders to service providers, making sure there's a way for the service provider to get paid without, cash sucking the startup. That all makes sense. Then you have this other company called Cloudburst, which
Yep.
is basically a software development company, is what I
Yep.
understand. Is that right?
Exactly. And
Okay.
we're typically working with entrepreneurs. So Josh, Zach, and I, none of us are technical in terms of like actually writing code. So all the
Mhm.
SaaS products we built over the years, we always had to use talent to get that built. And so we really created Cloudburst to be the software development company we wished we always had when we were developing product. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, working with entrepreneurs, helping them make decisions that are keeping the product as lean as possible in terms of development, trying to get product market fit as soon as you can, really trying to help them capitalize on the mistakes that we made in ways that they're able to hopefully find success.
Yeah. Okay, so and here's where I'm starting to see that there's a little bit of an ecosystem because you get an entrepreneur or a startup that comes into your ecosystem, you can help them to find talent and put these shared success agreements together. You can
Yeah.
then help them to develop whatever sort of software or web app or whatever they need.
Yep.
Then you have Augurian, which is digital marketing, which I'm sure you would also offer to them. Is that right?
We would, although Agurian is kind of further up the chain in terms of the company sizes that we work with. So it would have to be
Yeah.
a fairly funded or a decent amount of revenue for a Cloudburst client to be able to use Agurian. Agurian is just more more expensive, I would say, on the digital marketing side. So, but
Okay.
yeah.
And that's because it's like they've got to pay for the Google ads and the Facebook ads and the yada yada. Is that right?
Yep, yep. And our teams, at Agreean, we're very kind of niched down. It's just paid
Hmm.
media, SEO, and analytics. But
Okay.
we have really good talent. We love working with sophisticated clients, and so I would just say that that is beyond where most startups are. We don't really have a lot of startups in Agreeant at all. It's mostly established companies that have, we call them almost small but mighty marketing teams that we're helping assist on their digital.
Okay. Gotcha. Do you ever, like, when you work with a client, let's say you could help them with Cloudburst, software dev,
Yeah,
Augurian, marketing, and maybe even help them find some talent and do the shared success agreements. Do you put together offerings that like combine all these different Monkey Island venture entities in servicing your clients?
we don't.
Okay.
That's a short answer. So, yeah, I mean, Agurian clients, I mean, I'd say the vast majority of them don't even know what Monkey Island is or what the other companies are. If an
Okay.
opportunity comes up and, the team hears that this client needs software development, then, that might be a referral. Um, Cloudburst uses shared success. So that's just part of
Okay.
their model of how they use it. So I would say that, referrals from Cloudburst into Rainmaker is way more common.
Okay, that makes sense. All right, so let's shift into Rainmaker then, because that's the new
Yeah.
one.
Yep.
That's the one that you are really spearheading right now,
Yep.
right? And
Exactly.
that one's all about LinkedIn and growing your network, closing more deals on LinkedIn, I
Yep.
think.
Yeah.
So what?
Nope, that's right.
Okay, and this is something that I mean, I know a lot of people are trying to get good at LinkedIn. I
Yep.
know my company, we use LinkedIn. There's no way I'm using it as well as I could be. So
Sure.
talk to me about LinkedIn. Like what is the best way to approach LinkedIn?
Yeah. Nope. That sounds great. And just one thing is in terms of like Rainmaker's model,
Hmm.
everything that I do for clients happens within their LinkedIn account. So everything that we'll talk about today are things that your audience can go and do manually. They don't need me and they don't need Rainmaker. Clients are hiring me and Rainmaker when they no longer want to do all of it manually and they want to just start to see some scale with what they're doing on LinkedIn. So,
Okay.
when I think about LinkedIn, I kind of think about it in three layers. The top layer being philosophy, the layer underneath that being audience and audience building, and then the layer underneath that being strategies. So, with LinkedIn, I think people have to come into LinkedIn being genuine and authentic. And I think most do that fine, right? That's kind of table stakes. You need to be authentic and genuine. The other thing from a mindset perspective is you have to come into LinkedIn with an educational mindset. Nobody wants to be sold on LinkedIn. And we've all seen those crappy messages and those people coming at us and they're just immediately trying to sell us. That will never work ever. And all it does is give a bad reputation to you and the companies that you represent. So, but you have to come with an educational mindset because although people don't want to be sold, I think virtually everyone's willing to be educated on LinkedIn. And so the final piece of the philosophy is really putting a lot of really pressure on myself or any founder or anyone that's in a sales or marketing seat, which is you have to know what are the pains and the barriers that your prospects are trying to overcome. You need to know what they want to be educated on. And most importantly, you have to know what it is that they want to learn from you. Like explicitly, you need to know what it is that they want you to teach them. And I'll get into some of that when we get down into the strategies. But any B2B that can kind of crack that nut around understanding what their audiences want to learn from them, I think could be incredibly successful on LinkedIn, not only building an audience, but also filling their pipeline and actually closing deals. So that's how I think about LinkedIn philosophically at a high level. The next level down underneath that is around then audience. And the vast majority of the audiences that I build for myself or my clients is in Sales Navigator, and that works out incredibly well most of the time. But I have been thinking over the last few months, how do you get closer to understanding audience intent? And so, if one of your competitors or an industry organization is doing a LinkedIn event, if you go to that event and you click attend, you'll be able to see everyone else that's also attending that event. And so one of the
Hmm.
things that you could do is start finding other LinkedIn events where your prospects are already publicly raising their hand and saying, here's who I am and I'm interested in this topic. And then you could start trying to build out first connections from people that are attending these events. Another one would be using a person as a proxy. So if there's a thought leader that's talking about a specific subject that your audience is interested in and that your business solves for example, with there's a woman named Brenda who's on LinkedIn, and she has like 70,000 followers, and she's always talking about how to use LinkedIn around your profile and posting and all of this. Well, I reached out to connect with her, and she connected back with me. So now we're first connections, and there is um, and her connections are open. And so I can go into Sales Navigator and I can select Brenda, and then I can select everyone that's a first connection to her, but is a second connection to me, that's a founder or a sales executive or a business coach. And I could start then building out connections with people that are following her because they most likely want to learn how to grow on LinkedIn. Therefore, they might be a good candidate for me for Rainmaker. So
Hmm.
those are a couple of kind of hacks that you could do around other people's events and then other people as a proxy. But again, most of the audiences I'm building in Sales Navigator, and it works out great. So then that bottom layer are actual strategies. And so the most foundational strategy that I'm doing for every client is growing their first degree network. And after we build the audience, we'll put that in place and we'll reach out to 25 people a day, Monday through Friday during normal working hours. So 125 people a week, 500 a month. On average, we're getting between a 10 and a 40% connection rate back. We do not send a connection message most of the time. And we find that audience can really vary. So, I have clients where one list will perform at like 28% and a different list will perform at 8%. So I think, beyond an educational mindset, you also want to have an experimentation mindset where, you want to test out audiences and topics and see what types of things really start to resonate. Um, the other thing that we'll do is after 30 days, if someone doesn't connect back from the invite, we'll withdraw that invite. And then there's a 3-week period of time where you can't re-invite that person, but after 3 weeks, you can invite them again. So you can kind of create these pools of people that you could reach out to again at a later date. You can do all this again within LinkedIn. You could go and look at all the events that you've sent over the months or years and start withdrawing those old invites, and then go ahead and re-invite those people at a later date. A very typical campaign then after the connection campaign would be a messaging campaign.
Hmm.
And so after someone connects, like a day or two later, we'll send a message out. And that message should be just really an authentic thank you message. Don't try and sell anything. Don't even try and help. Just authentically thank them for the connection. So, one of my clients is a law firm, and they're breaking into the blockchain industry, and they're connecting with blockchain founders. And my client, his first message after someone connects is, be like, hey, Colin, thanks so much for connecting. I'm really passionate about the blockchain industry. I know you are as well. Look forward to seeing your content. Okay. Going back to the philosophy of LinkedIn, he knows his prospects. He knows that anyone that's developing and in the blockchain space is passionate about what it is that they're building and what they're doing. And so even just that like little bit of language he's choosing to use really resonates well. If someone replies back to that, it's just, in their LinkedIn inbox, and they can take that conversation wherever it goes. If they don't reply, then like a week later, send out a second message. And that second message is where we start to, add value and start to try and build a relationship. And so that next one might be like, hey, Nico, this is really, or I find myself more and more writing about the intersection of law and blockchain. And I'm wondering if there's any topics you'd have interest in me writing about. Okay, going back to the philosophy again, he knows that blockchain founders have a lot of issue with U.S. government and what laws may or may not pass, and just they don't know how regulation is going to come down. And so they're responding to that message by saying, "Oh, if you write about this topic, that'd be great." Or, "Do you have any insight on whether you think this law will pass?" And so what he's doing just by that second message and asking that question is he's getting them to respond. He's starting to build a relationship, and he's being seen as a thought leader. And so he's really positioning himself well from that and starting to build out relationships with these blockchain founders. So that's, for me, really what the messaging should be: really a go-giver attitude. Don't try and sell. just try and use creative ways of assisting your prospects, whether that's asking them questions, whether that's providing assets that maybe your company's coming up with, providing assets maybe that other companies are coming up with that you think they would enjoy. And one of those assets very well could be like a LinkedIn live stream. So that's actually a tactic that I'm using quite a bit and having really great success are LinkedIn live streams. And the reason why they're so great is you can identify an audience. And what I'm doing is I've been using essentially the same deck for the last 5 months or so around learn how to grow your LinkedIn network leads and sales. But then I'm targeting it to different audiences. So I'm targeting it to, sales executives or founders or business coaches or fractionals. And what I'll do is I will just kind of customize that, the first slide of my deck, and it'll say, for founders or for, business coaches or sales executives. And I'm using that first slide as the image on my LinkedIn live stream event. So then what I end up doing is if I'm going after, business coaches, I will look at all the first connections that I have that are business coaches, and I will send out LinkedIn event invites to them, inviting them to the live stream. So the beauty of this is that I'm using essentially the same content every week. So I'm not having to keep coming up with all this new content. I'm getting between 10 and 25 people a week to click the attend button for the event. And what it's doing is it's letting me know that my topic and my audience are on track. If nobody's clicking the attend button, then I know my audience or my topic or both are off, right? So it's a great way for you to start testing out audiences and topics to see what resonates. Okay, again, going back to the philosophy, we're talking about teaching. Like, what can you teach your audience that they want to learn from you? And the best part about doing the live streams is that after the live stream is over, I follow up with each attendee and I'll say, hi, Emily. Thanks again for registering for the LinkedIn live stream that I led this morning. Not sure if you were able to make it or not, but in case you missed it, here's a link to the recording. Okay. And it just points back to the LinkedIn live stream event page. The recording gets saved there forever. And then underneath that, I'll say, if you ever want to chat LinkedIn strategy, feel free to grab some time convenient for you here. And then I give my Calendly. Okay. So what we're doing, every B2B has to book, meetings, right? You have to get people into meetings where they're learning about you, you're learning about them. Is it a good fit? And progressing that relationship forward. So if you look at that process and what I'm doing, I'm able to have recurring content to discrete audiences where they feel like these live streams are built just for them. And I'm following up with a message and a Calendly link. And that doesn't feel salesy or spammy or icky in any way. It feels like a very natural next step. And that's one of the things where I've seen my behavior change a lot on LinkedIn, where, 5-6 months ago, I was trying to post every day, right? And I was thinking about, what should I post? And then looking at my comments and likes and all of that. I'm posting now maybe once or twice a week. And I've transitioned a lot more of my time into, the messaging that I'm sending people, the LinkedIn live streams that I'm inviting people to. And I'm trying to create content on LinkedIn to my prospects that's getting them to opt into it, that is now allowing me to know who they are and what they're interested in, and allowing me now also to book meetings. And I have closed deals from this process. So LinkedIn live streams, I think, are a wonderful strategy that everyone on listening should really take a look at.
And the people you're inviting to the live streams, those are first degree connections?
That's right. You have to, you can only invite first degree connections. So, so there's like an audience, what are called EOS implementers. And I targeted an audience of EOS implementers like 2 months ago, 200. And I reached out to connect to all 200. About 100 connected back with me. And then I created the live stream, and then I sent out LinkedIn event invites to all 100 implementers, and 22 of them clicked the attend button. So, a 10% conversion rate from a list of 200, or a 20% conversion rate of people that connected back to me. Those are solid numbers. I'm not saying everybody's going to get that, but that's an example of what that process looks like. And I've actually completely mapped out my process of these LinkedIn live streams on a one-page PDF again, everybody can go and do this themselves. I'll send it to you after the recording, and you could share that with your audience. But
Yeah.
I highly recommend taking a look at the process.
Interesting. Okay, very cool. And so you've built this business around it, and the idea is, hey, here's the process we run, right? It's basically like Elon Musk saying, here's how we build these electric engines,
Yeah,
and he's just
smaller
putting it
scale,
out there.
smaller scale. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
But not keeping it proprietary, just putting it out there, and you're basically betting on the idea that getting this knowledge out there is going to result in people realizing they need to do it. And then their
yes.
second realization is, damn, this takes a lot of work. And that's when they hire Rainmaker.
That's exactly right. Yep, yep. And that's part of, I think, the beauty really of any business that where you're an expert in something. Share your knowledge. Give that freely. Allow people to learn from you, because many times people buy from where they get educated. Right? A trusted source is where a lot of people end up making their buying decisions. So if you're holding stuff too close to the vest, I would say that's, I don't want to say it's a cardinal sin, but just on everything that I've done in business, and from so much that I've read over the years, it's better to overshare, be more free, share your knowledge, be welcoming in doing that, and the energy you put out doing that will come back to you.
Yeah, I like that because I think a lot of people, myself included, a little bit, we're sort of tempted to think, if I put out a lot of value and I just post it on LinkedIn, then what am I going to share in my actual engagements with my customer if I'm just putting all my knowledge out there?
Right.
But I think the reality is probably some very small percentage of people are even going to watch those videos. Certainly not going to watch all of them in their entirety and remember
Right.
everything that they heard. Yeah.
No,
Okay.
no. I mean, we have, you can only be good at just like one or two things, and you're spending so much of your life, just honing skills in that area. You don't have time for the other stuff. You'll
Yeah.
never be real good at it either, even if you try doing it. So, yeah, I think lean into teaching and sharing, especially on LinkedIn.
Hmm.
I think LinkedIn's a wonderful platform because it's a social network. It's still about people. It's about building relationships. Um, it's usually not very toxic. It's a pretty positive environment. And, it's a business social network. People are there to conduct business, to hire, to get hired, to find vendors, to buy and sell. But you got to do it in a way that is not threatening.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, hey, I want to wrap up here, but I will absolutely link to rainmakergrows.com and we'll get that PDF from you. That would be awesome.
Yeah.
Um, is it on the website? Can we find it on the website?
Yeah, I just added a page called live stream. It's kind of hidden in the navigation on the right, is part of the drop down. It's not in the main nav at the top. But if you click on the live stream, it just has a little blurb about live streams, and then there's an image of the process, and then you can download the PDF of that process as well. Yep.
Okay, awesome. Cool. Well, we will link to that. And I definitely want to read through that process flow and start testing some of this stuff. I'm super interested.
Yeah. No, it's
So
it's it's great. I highly recommend it.
awesome. Cool. Well, thank you, Colin, for joining me in the Lion's Den.
Thanks so much. I really enjoyed my time.